Something that I've learned over my lifetime is that you never know how, when, or where God is going to use you at any given time. You have no idea whose path your path is going to cross paths with, or the opportunity that God gives you to help somebody. You just never know what a day is going to bring. Hey guys, I'm Dan, and welcome back to the Fourth Man In channel. I can't thank you enough for the likes, the views, the comments, the subscriptions. If you're new here, just real quick, just want to let you know the purpose of the Fourth Man In is to let you know that on the most difficult, darkest day of your life, that God is still with you, He still loves you, He's not abandoned you, and He's not forgotten you. That is the purpose of this channel, to get that message out and to let everyone know, regardless of what you're facing or what you're fighting, what valley or what problems you're dealing with right now, God's there. And He's got everything under control, even when it doesn't seem like it. So you never know how God is going to use you. I think if you ask most people if they wanted God to use them, and that doesn't mean with a microphone in your hand, standing on a platform preaching to people, but I think most people would say, yes, I want God to use me. Or I think most people have probably prayed, God use me. And that being said, God is God. You never know how He's going to, but if you pray that with a sincere heart, be ready and have your eyes open, because the opportunity is going to come. And it may come in a moment when you didn't expect it. I want to share a story with you today that, to be honest, I don't think I have shared with many people. But it was a beautiful day, just like today, and I was at the DMV. We've all done that. We all have to do that. And so I'm at the DMV, just getting tags for our cars on that day, just as average and normal day. Didn't expect anything at all. While I'm at the DMV, I hear a commotion in the building. I didn't know what was going on, and for a moment I didn't think much of it. I was still conducting my business, and then I heard some people start to scream and yell. Being a former police officer, didn't know what was going on, immediately stopped everything that I was doing, tried to get a bearing or a bead on the situation. I turned around, went towards where a congregation, if you will, had gathered of people, and people are pointing. They're screaming. People are getting their phones. I still can't see what in the world's going on. So I try to get a better position, take a look and see what's happening. And they're pointing at something outside. Something's going on outside. So I managed to get around the front of the building, and I see people pointing, just pointing, not doing anything, just standing there pointing at a girl who's on the railroad tracks. Now, the town that I grew up in has a railroad track that just runs right through the center of town for miles, from one end of our county to the other. And there's a girl, and we're maybe 150 yards from where she is on the tracks. People are yelling, they're screaming, there's a girl on the track, there's a girl on the track. Now, no one's doing really anything, and it's amazing to me how people will react when something happens and someone has to do something. And this is noteworthy. There's people still in the building conducting business just normally. They're not reacting, they're not even looking, they're just taking care of their stuff. Not that I expected everybody to stop what they were doing and try to go help this girl. Just making a point here, there were people who did nothing. Whatever was going on, it's not that they were oblivious to it. It just didn't concern them. They just didn't care, and they weren't going to get involved. There were other people who were just watching, not talking, not doing anything, just kind of watching. There were people who were pointing, and there were people who were on their phones, I guess calling for police and anybody else as far as first responders who might be needed in that situation, people calling 911. So there's different people doing different things, but yet no one is really doing anything. Now, fortunately, there wasn't a train coming through at the time, but instantly I knew that this young lady was serious. Well, how did you know that? You don't know her. You don't know what's going on. She did not pick a place to lay down on the track that would be easy to get to her. And she was, the best way to describe it, she was kind of turtled up, if you will, face down in between the tracks. Now, she could have picked a place where the railroad is flat and where cars cross over, a crossing, where it just would have been easy for her, but also would have been easy for people to get to her to help her. She actually had been walking on the tracks for a while to get where she was, which was across from the DMV. And the tracks are built up on a berm there, so you can't just walk right to her. You're going to have to go up this berm and then walk a little bit down the track, because on both sides it was pretty steep. So it wasn't going to be easy to get to her, but again, nobody's doing anything. So I put my stuff down. I didn't take off running, because if she saw me, I didn't want her to panic and go, hey, what's going on? But I could see her, and she's face down, turtled up in between the tracks, and I just started walking briskly, but walking towards her. Again, anytime a train comes through our town, there's a rule: they have to sound their horn so many times. There were no trains coming, thank God. And so it takes me a minute to get over to her. I go up the berm. I'm just slowly walking down the track myself to get to her, and I'm just watching, just looking. Again, I can't see her face. She's all turtled up. She's got her hands underneath her, so I can't see her hands. And so I'm approaching very, very cautiously. You know, I don't know if she's going to come up all of a sudden with a gun. I don't know if she's going to come up with a knife. I don't know if she's going to come up with a needle. I have no idea what is going on with her. I don't know why she's there. I don't know her story. I don't know what's taking place in her mind that has got her in this position. I don't know if she's armed. I don't know if she has drugs on her. I don't know if she's a drug addict. I have no information at all. All I know is there's someone who has completely given up on all hope and their life. Let me just hit the brakes for a second, because we're moving pretty quick. But I want you to get the picture, the mental image of what I was seeing that day. Beautiful day outside, across the street from the railroad tracks. A young girl, maybe 23, 24 years of old, turtled up on the railroad tracks. How could life be so bad that you've made that decision? And again, she was serious, or she would not have picked that spot, because she knew it was going to be hard to get to her, but I managed to get to her. You never know what is going on in someone's life. And as a police officer, I have seen terrible scenes and situations in million-dollar homes and with people who have no place to live and everything in between. So just because someone may look like they have it all together and they've got a nice car and they've got a nice home and they've got money in the bank does not mean that they don't have problems too, right? So let's just be clear. People have problems. People are going through things. But every life has value. I had a seminary professor, and he just used to pound that thought into us. Every life has value. Why was everyone across the street doing nothing? Nobody came with me. Honestly, I thought when I took off that, okay, so people will come with me. Nope. Nobody. Just for a second, I just kind of looked, peripheral vision. They're all still standing there, just watching, still pointing, still have their phones out, whatever it was that they're doing. Cars are just driving by. Nobody's doing anything. Are we so busy today? Are we so cold today? Are we so numb today that we just don't care? That we just don't care about what's going on in somebody's life? Maybe I shouldn't say I guarantee you, but I'm going to, for lack of a better word. I guarantee you that there were people who thought maybe they should do something, but they don't want to get involved, and it's not my business. And or maybe they were judging her, because we judge people terribly today, and we're going to do a fourth man in on the dangers of judging people very, very soon. Were they thinking, she's just some crackhead, she's just some meth addict, and maybe she was. Maybe she was. So what? Her life still has value. God still has a plan and a purpose for her, regardless what she was. But I'll tell you what she was. She was somebody's daughter. Maybe somebody's sister. Maybe somebody's friend. Maybe somebody's mom. But we will judge people. You know what? If she wants to commit suicide, if she wants to lay across the tracks, so what? Just another person that we don't need. There are people that feel that way and think that way. And actually, they're the ones that need help, I think, more than she did. So I'm just walking slowly down the tracks. Again, I don't hear any train coming at all. Had there been a train coming, I assure you I would have done things differently. But as I'm approaching her, there are things that are running through my mind. Okay, because you just went back into law enforcement mode, also pastor mode, but also just somebody who wants to show her that I care. But I'm being careful, being cautious, was watching her hands, what she got on her, she have anything on her, and because I have no idea how she's going to react. Here's a guy that she does not know approaching her slowly. I don't know if she was going to be maniacal, if she just was going to go crazy. I had no idea, but I wasn't just going to stay there and watch like everybody else was doing. I thought about just coming up behind her, grabbing her real quick, and just getting her off the tracks. But again, I don't know what she's carrying. I don't know if she's armed. I don't know what she has. I don't know her story. And that could have backfired terribly. So in that moment, I thought, okay, you've got some time. Just take a deep breath and just let her know you care. So I got close to her. I didn't get right up on her. I just got close to her. I'm about 5 feet away. And I just knelt down on the tracks right beside her. Didn't say anything for a moment. I have to believe she knew I was there. She would have heard me walking. There's gravel in the train tracks. So I knelt down beside her. And I just sat there for a moment. I thought I'll give her the first opportunity to see if she wants to say anything. And she's turtled up, and she just kind of looked real quick. So she saw me. She didn't act crazy. She didn't start cussing at me. She didn't say, "What are you doing here?" So that was good. I thought she looked at me, and she didn't really react or really give me a read on anything, but at least she didn't, you know what I'm saying, pull a gun or pull a knife. So I thought, okay, that's good. She looked at me, she looked back. And at that point in time, I'm not going to preach to her, right? I think sometimes God gives us an opportunity and we just want to Bible beat people or just, start preaching Jesus to them right away or renounce your sin, right? That's foolishness. There's a time and a place for that, and this wasn't it. She just needed to know somebody cared about her and loved her and that her life had value. So I wasn't going to talk loud. I just kind of spoke softly, which is kind of hard for me to do, but anyway. And I just said, "Ma'am, I'm not here to judge you." I said, "I don't have any idea what you're facing or what you're fighting or what you're going through. But I just want to let you know that people care about you and that people love you." That's all I said. Didn't want to say too much. I just wanted to get that out. She needed to hear that. She looked at me again. Still not really reacting. So I just sat there for a moment. And I thought, okay, I'm just gonna tell her God loves her. I'm not gonna go grab my Bible and come back and point her scripture and tell her to repent. No. So I continued. I said, "Ma'am, I don't know if you've ever even heard or if anybody's ever even told you, but I want you to know God loves you. And He cares about you, and He has a great plan for your life." And I stopped. That's all. Just stopped right there. And she finally just slowly sat up. Now, while she's doing that, I'm looking at her hands, I'm trying to do that without her knowing that's what I'm doing because I don't want to alarm her. Just quickly look at her hands. I got a little closer to her. I'm still thinking about grabbing her, getting her off the tracks, but thankfully, no train whistle or horn at this time. So I'm just going to continue to keep moving slow. And she just kind of sits up a little bit. She's just kind of in a regular seated position now. She's still on the tracks. I just asked her her name. I cannot remember what her name was, but she did tell me her name. And I remember saying, "Where are you from?" And she was from around here. And again, I did not feel like it would have been the best idea for me to go, "What are you doing here? What's going on in your life?" Look, the time for questions, that can be later on, but this isn't it. God will bring somebody across your path. I really believe if God brings someone across your path, that just a divine appointment, that He trusts you enough to bring that person to you or you to them, okay? So don't blow it. Use wisdom. And I didn't want to just start grilling her with questions. And so we're just having a very, very basic conversation. She didn't look like a drug addict to me, but what's a drug addict look like? You know, I don't know. We can come up with different characteristics and traits, but she just looked in her eyes like someone who just did not have any hope at all. Just didn't have any hope at all. So I wanted her to know I cared. And so I can finally, in the distance, I'm starting to hear sirens. So it's probably police or an ambulance that are coming. I don't know how she's going to react. If the police come screaming in lights and sirens and they run up the berm, or if she sees an ambulance roll up, I don't know how she's going to react. So I'm just trying to keep her talking with me. I didn't want her focus to switch and be on the sirens that were coming, because I'm sure she would be able to figure out, hey, they're coming for me. I didn't want her to take off running. Again, I didn't want her to get crazy and try to fight me. I didn't know. All I know is right now we're talking, and man, I tell you what, I'm praying too. You know, I'm talking to her, but I'm praying, God, give me wisdom in this, and let her feel you. Let her know that she's loved. So before first responders show up, a car pulls up and pulls off in the grass. Car's down the berm and off to the road 20 yards away. A lady steps out, the driver's side walks around, an older lady steps out of the passenger side. They step off in the grass. They don't come up to the tracks, but I'm still talking to her, but I'm kind of watching them because I don't know if they're going to try to come up here and help or interfere or what. I don't know who they are. And I remember asking this young girl, this lady, do you know them? And the older lady who had gotten out of the passenger side, that was her mom. Now, how she found out that her daughter was, I don't know. If somebody was at the DMV that knew her, to this day, I don't know how all those things came together. I don't know. Or if she just was out driving around looking for her. I don't have any clue. But her mom got there. She steps out of the car into the grass, and she's just telling her daughter, she's yelling, not like yelling at her, but yelling towards her, calling her by name, telling her that she loves her. Turns out this young lady on the tracks was a mom, because her mom mentioned her kids. Are you with me? And for a moment I was like, no, please don't start yelling at her and arguing with her, because that could make things worse, and I don't want these two arguing at each other, because right now the situation is under control. But she didn't, thankfully. The mom's just kind of talking to her, letting her know everything's going to be all right, everything's going to be okay. And it turns out that, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but it turns out that this girl was on medication. I don't know if she'd gotten off her meds, something to that effect. So she wasn't a drug addict, but she was on medication for some mental issues. And so while the girl's sitting there, I just walked up a little closer and said, ma'am, I'm a retired police officer. And at the time I was a pastor. I said, I'm a pastor. And I'm not here to judge you. And again, just to make sure she didn't have anything on her, I just kind of put my hand on her back and on her arm. But really, I'm just trying to see if she's got anything dangerous or that would harm her. And I asked her, I said, do you have any weapons on you or anything that would hurt you? And she said, no, I don't. And we just sat there. I could hear the sirens getting closer. And I said, you know, life is hard. We have really difficult days. Things don't always go our way. I said, but the thing is, you've got a great plan for your life. God's got a great plan for you. I know today is hard. I don't know what brought you here, and you don't have to tell me. And again, I didn't want to say, you tell me why you're here, young lady. I didn't ask her that. I just wanted her to know. And sometimes that's all people need to know, right? That yes, today was bad, whatever happened, okay, but tomorrow's on the way, and tomorrow's another chance, and tomorrow's a new day, and God's still got it. He still loves you. And I just wanted to reassure her. I said, your mom's here. I said, your mom loves you. And even though I'd heard her mom mention her kids, I asked the young lady, I said, so you have children too? And she quietly said yes. And I said, those babies love you, and they need their mama. And again, I'm talking to her just very softly. I didn't want to come off very authoritative, and I said, those babies need their mama. And I said, I'm so sorry that today happened, and that you're here, but I care about you. Your mom cares about you. Your children love you, and they need you. That's really all. I didn't go into a theological debate or exhortation. There was no need for that. I think sometimes God brings people across our path, and we make things a lot harder than what they need to be, right? This is just a girl looking to take her own life on the railroad tracks of my hometown. And this isn't about me. I'm not going, oh, look at me. No. But what a story she can and could have, telling people someday. And this has been, probably 10 years ago. I wish somehow I would have been able to keep in touch with her. I would love to think that today she's helping other people, saying, let me tell you how low my life was and how bad things have gotten for me. But fortunately, there was some weird dude that God sent my way to talk to me, and here I am today talking to you. I would like to think that's happened with her. I'd like to think that her kids are growing up and she's got a healthy home. I don't know, but I hope so, right? But in that moment, somebody had to do something, and it was just amazing to me that nobody was doing anything. Why is it today that it just seems like we live in a society, we want to tell everybody what they should do. We want to give everybody our opinions. We want to point the finger at people. We want to judge people. But is anybody just going to simply love people and care about people? It did not matter to me. I could care less what color she was. It did not matter to me in that moment what sexual orientation she was. It did not matter to me how she identified in that moment. It did not matter to me at all. Right? I wasn't going to get hung up on that nonsense. I didn't ask her, man, what's your political views and who did you vote for, by the way? It seems like we only want to help people, and I use that term loosely because we really don't seem to want to help people who look like us, think like us, believe like us. No, that is not the love of God, right? I can't imagine if that day, if I had just walked out, looked up at her and gone, not my problem. Hopefully somebody does something, but if they don't, oh well, and hopped in my truck and left. I can't imagine doing that. I can't imagine doing that, and maybe no one did do anything, and maybe that train does come through, and maybe she does succeed with her plan to take her own life. I can't imagine. But I was not about to take that risk and think, hope somebody does something, hope she doesn't die. God creates opportunities of divine appointments. And sometimes he'll tap you on the shoulder. Don't think, oh, somebody should do something. No, you should do something. Don't wait. Don't wait. Some of you are going to watch this video, and here's what's going to happen. Could be a couple things. Either God's going to lay somebody on your heart that you should have already spoken with, or you should be talking to, not preaching at, but just loving on and showing them that somebody cares, but you haven't done it yet. This is God reminding you, hey, I brought them into your life for this. Or God's going to bring somebody across your path real soon that you don't even know, but he's going to give you an opportunity to do something about their future, right? Don't waste that opportunity. When I was a pastor, something that I said a lot, because it's haunting to me. I don't think God would ever do this, but I can't imagine how horrible it would be if one day we were standing in front of the Lord and he said, hey, you know what? You did do a lot of good things, but I want to show you all the people that I brought to you. I want to show you all the opportunities that I gave you to help somebody, and you did absolutely nothing. You looked the other way. Your heart was hard. Your soul was cold, and you did nothing at all, right? I poured my love out on you, and you did nothing with it at all. I can't imagine how terrifying that would be. So finally, I'm sitting beside this girl on the railroad tracks, and she's starting to look at me like, you're weird. why in the world would you be sitting on the railroad tracks by me? And I may have told her that, just to try to get her to smile and maybe laugh. Fortunately, this situation went good. It could have gone south real quick. If she'd had a gun or a knife or something, you understand what I'm saying? It could have gone bad real quick. I'm so thankful that God was in that moment. So her mom's here. The police show up. They chose, and some of the guys that showed up knew me. And so they chose to stay right there. Not saying that's good or that's bad. And then the ambulance shows up. And so I just turned to the young lady. I said, they're not here to hurt you. I said, they're for you. And they just want to help you. I said, I know every one of these guys. I've known them for a long time. Some of them I did, some I hadn't, but I just wanted to reassure her. I said, will you take my hand and just walk down here with me? And she just kind of looked at me. I said, well, I said, take my hand because I don't want to slip and fall. Just trying to make her laugh. And she did. And so we just held each other's hands and just slowly walked back down to the berm. Her mom walked up and hugged her. And the last thing that I saw, I'm sure they were doing a mental inquest hold, something like that. And they put her in the ambulance. She didn't fight anybody. She was agreeable. And that's the last time I ever saw her was when the ambulance drove off. To this day, I've always wondered who she was and really what had happened. I heard the mom say she wasn't taking her medicines. I don't know, and I don't need to know. But I tell you what, that day when I got back in my truck, my knees were shaking a little bit. I am so thankful there was not a train coming down the tracks. I am so thankful that I didn't have to take any kind of action against her other than just sit down beside her on the railroad tracks. I'm glad it wasn't raining too, or wintertime. It was just a beautiful day, just like today. But somebody had to do something. I just happened to be there. There could have been, and I wish there would have been, much more highly qualified and better people than me. But on that day, sorry, it was just me. Listen, it's easy to stand in the crowd with your hands in your pockets and just go, It's easy just to point. Well, look, oh. I was going to say it's easy just to go on about your business, but to me that'd be hard, right? And my point is, the majority of people today, when there's somebody that has a real need, do nothing. That's their choice. That's their decision. They do absolutely nothing. But you may be there in that moment to see what's going on or to meet somebody. And there doesn't have to be a crowd involved. You understand what I'm saying? But God may bring you somebody across your path because God set it up. God knew on this day you're going to be here, and so will they, and you're going to talk, and He needs you. He needs you to be the person to step up because nobody else is going to, right? Not your pastor. Your pastor's not going to be there. This one's on you to do something. God doesn't really require a lot of us, but I think He absolutely requires us and expects us to love people, regardless of how they look, regardless of how they think, whatever, just to love them and care about them. Doesn't mean if you really knew them that you have to agree with everything that they believe in. That doesn't matter. We're talking about their life here. We're talking about their soul here. We're talking about eternity here. If that young lady had died that day, is she in heaven? I couldn't stand before the Lord. I couldn't. And find out that she was not in heaven. And have the Lord say, Dan, I had you at the DMV that day because I knew she would listen to you. But you didn't do anything. People were just saying, there's a girl on the tracks. Just some girl, some throwaway life, trying to kill herself on the tracks. I'm thankful I was there that day. And I don't know, maybe somehow, some way she ends up finding this video. Well, maybe you're more like the person that was on the track that day. Maybe you're watching this and you're more like her today. You've just lost all hope. You feel like there's nothing to live for at all. That life is just over. It's not. It's not. On the worst, darkest day of your life, God's still with you. He still loves you. He still cares about you. And He will turn things around for you. You guys, this has just been a brief story today that I had on my heart and I wanted to share with you. There are no throwaway lives. Let's not be judging people, right? God looks at the heart while man looks at the outward appearance, right? You know what that tells me? We've got everything backwards. We judge people by how they look or things they say. God doesn't do that. I think inside this young lady, there was a good heart. She just was having some serious trouble. You know what? God understands that. And if that's you today, God cares about you. There are people that love you, and they'll just sit beside you. Sometimes people just need somebody just to sit beside them and let them know they care. All right, you guys, you have a great day today. Be blessed. This has been episode, what are we on, 8 or 9? I don't know. Click like for me. If you haven't subscribed, please do that. I'd be honored. Leave a comment. Share this with somebody. If you know somebody who's struggling right now, going through battle, share this with them. To me, that's the most important thing, okay? I love you guys. I can't thank you enough. I'll see you soon.